Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence. Put in the work for yourself and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are on Tuesday, January 16th. We're going to take a look at Mara today. So Mara is pushing down to a new swing low here. You see we had this big climb up, right, all the way from the 8s, maybe even less, 7s, up through all the way to 31.30 and pushed off, couldn't reach up to, I guess, this level, 31.39 that we had on the chart. Came down, tried to catch support on this 27.01 level, filled this gap, and then that just sort of continued on and pulled it down into the 20s, and then it reconfirmed its resistance at that 27.01 level recently, and now is pushing off down swing low. So fell pretty hard through that 24 level, and then that 1930 didn't really put up much resistance. So today's high came in at 1904. So sort of close-ish in for such a volatile stock, but certainly has its work cut out for it if it's going to be able to stabilize and or sort of reconvene this bullish momentum that it had going. Now, the nearest in levels that I put on the chart today is 1677 or 1678, however you want to read that, and 1589. Those held up pretty well. If you scroll back in this area here, right, there's a bunch of nice, you see the floor that was building here and the floor that was trying to hold there, and so they played a pretty solid role in those levels. Now, the thing that I really want to keep an eye out for, especially if it starts to toy with these levels, is there is a tiny gap. It's pretty small. It just goes, it would enter the gap at about 1407. It would fill it at about 1370. So not the biggest gap in the world, but, pretty key area here if it can't hold it and gets drawn down into that gap. Because you see the floor that was built here that helped sort of carry through after that big push, like we said, from the 7s, pushed up here into the 14-15 range, and then that's where it consolidated for a little bit before it made that enormous push to 31.30. So if it can't hold that and it does get down through the gap here and fills it at about 1370, the levels here, it's not that there aren't any, but it's just that they don't sort of have as much muster, if you will, as this level here. So that's why I just say if this one doesn't hold, I'm going to sort of wonder what's going to happen if it fills that gap. I'm going to turn that guy purple just because that's a pretty key level, and so I want that one to really pop and stand out, and then we'll see this 1370 if it comes in to fill it. So if or when it gets down to that level, we can address it then if folks are interested. If not, we don't have to. We can look at other stocks, but that is sort of pretty key from what I'm seeing at the moment anyway. Now, if we look back here, we had trigger, fire, did basically nothing. Re-trigger, refire, we talk about this all the time, the re-trigger and the refire, while the stock is still sort of in a pretty condensed channel, price hugging to the mid-range, that really set off the fireworks, right? And then, same thing, it got out of the channel, pulled back in, was using the wave cloud as support, and the upper bound of the channel as support, and that's, again, just common components of it having more momentum to exhaust before it's going to pull back or consolidate or what have you. And boy, did it have a bunch of that. So it got way out of the channel up here, came down pretty hard into the channel and quickly pressed the mid-range. Was doing its best to try to say, okay, can we hold the mid-range as support and continue to press the upper bound as resistance? But last couple of trading days now starting to lose that battle. We'll see how that plays out. But the other thing that you have sort of working at the moment is it's pressing mighty close to the lower bound of the channel. So we'll see how it reacts to that if it does come down to fully test support at that level. And then we also have the histogram, while it's pretty clunky, I mean, it has a few hiccup candles, and it did this sort of like return to the baseline and then rev back up kind of thing. Hiccup candles here, peaked, and then a pretty consistent steady drawdown all the way to the baseline, though by the time it got here, it just sort of like plummeted to the baseline. Now today, so far, for the time being, putting in its first bearish momentum candle on the histogram. So we'll see if that continues to play out. Nothing triggering and firing yet. So whether this is going to be a continuation of the already, in progress fire that's happening, or if it's going to maybe find some stabilization around the mid-range and start to trigger, we'll have to wait and see. But it is of note, to my way of thinking, that we had this big drop off, and if it does sort of follow through and put in this first red candle on the histogram, what that's going to bring about as it pertains to being pressed toward the lower bound of the channel. Is it going to fall out? And if so, how's it going to react then? We'll have to wait and see. But, two really good views on the same stock and the same price action here on the Mara daily chart. So both Webull and Thinkorswim offering some interesting things to keep an eye on as Mara progresses. All right, folks, I hope that your trading week is off to a good start. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.